Good afternoon. My name is Chris Adam. I'm here with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jack Green, who is the Recruitment and Onboarding Manager for LQ Management, but he's actually going to talk to us a little bit about Ufford Park. Is that right, Jack?
Yeah, fantastic. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks for being here. For everyone watching this clip, me and Jack have just had a little chat beforehand, and it turns out that you're quite sort of new to the world of sort of hotel management. Is that how we would describe it, Jack?
Yeah, that's a very fair way of putting it. Obviously, recruitment background, so experience from that point of view, but it's quite nice to venture into hospitality.
And brilliant. And so I said I've been to Ufford Park down in Suffolk. I actually did my work experience there a long time ago. So for someone like yourself, who, as I say, has sort of come from a recruitment background, and you're now sort of getting involved, as you say, in sort of onboarding and sort of a bit of hospitality, what transferable skills have you found that you've had to utilize from your recruitment background so far in your time in your new role?
I mean, obviously, I am still recruiting on a day-to-day basis. That is still the bulk of my job role. I feel like compared to sort of my recruitment consultancy background, the skills you get from people management, just knowing how to speak to people in a way, how to get across what you want in a way that kind of leads someone to that, is always going to be helpful. And just the general people skills you learn through a sales role. And then prior to this role, I was recruitment manager again. So this has almost been the next step up for me. Instead of dealing with one business, I now deal with 3 businesses across the UK. Size of, or total, probably about 500 odd employees, can go up to about 650 in summer. And yeah, so like I say, lots of transferable skills, but obviously just in a new area of the market.
So if we drill down into exactly what you're doing, I say within this recruitment role, so sort of, I say you've got those 3 sites. So sort of who are you recruiting and why, really?
So anything to do with a hotel, which could be anything from chambermaids, dealing with cleaning the rooms after a guest has stayed in one, right the way through to some of our senior management positions, whether that be around finance, whether that be sort of general management around the hotel. It is such a varied role. Basically, anything that you can think of to do with a hotel, I will recruit for it. Like, say, from a chambermaid to a maintenance manager to a chef, right the way through. It is such a varied role, which is part of the excitement of it.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely understand, as I say, the excitement and enthusiasm of having to find, I say, different people to fill different roles. And I'm not going to ask you to talk about the skills that are required in each various role, because obviously that's wide and varied. But if there are certain traits and characteristics that you're looking for someone when they're applying for, say, for one of these roles in hotels, are there any sort of traits across the board that you always think, okay, that's something I like to see in someone I want to recruit?
I mean, from a CV point of view, it's always difficult to get personality. I think it depends on the seniority of a role. For our more junior roles or more kind of generalised roles, it is so much more about personality. So many people, one, CV writing is difficult to be able to put across sort of all of your skills in you as a person. So for that type of role, it's really just getting someone in that's got the energy, just wants to get on work, wants to learn, and just kind of, like I say, just get their head down and get on with it. It's very much, if you come into an interview, big smile on your face, bit of energy about you, kind of asking questions, it's always a green flag from my point of view, and I think any employer's point of view.
That's brilliant. I say it's really good to know, what those green flags to look for are, which is really good. I say you mentioned, sort of about your recruitment sort of background and the recruitment in this role. There's always I think been a bit of a stereotype around recruiting that it's all very fast paced, very goal driven. From your experiences, is that really true? Is it different to what you thought it would be when you first got into it, or?
It is very fast paced. It's very target driven. That's so from an external recruiter point of view, sort of your typical recruitment consultants, anything around that sort of side is extremely goal driven. You're constantly looking for your next deal, thinking, who am I going to get commission from next? Where is my pay load? Where's that money going to come from? How can I get this person a job so I hit my target for this month? When you move on to the side that I've been on for the last sort of couple of years now, the internal side, It's dealing with those recruitment consultants, finding out the best way. Can you negotiate deals? Can you negotiate their terms with them? From a general point of recruitment, I don't deal with interviews as much anymore unless it's a senior position. I deal with more the strategy behind it, finding ways to optimize our recruitment process and our adverts, etc. So it's almost, this side is a lot less pressure, but it's still got the fast-paced enjoyment of it. There is never a moment where I can kind of sit and just look at my phone for 10 minutes in the day, which I'd prefer in someone. I feel like if I'm sat there not doing anything, I'm bored, which is why recruitment just kind of fits so well.
No, brilliant. It's good to, as I say, sort of have you realised, as I say, what your sort of skill set is, what your preferences are, and you found the career that fits that. And, you know, that's really, really good. And we sort of touched on it a little bit before we started recording. If you don't mind, we sort of talking about your age. And as you sort of said, you know, you've come, you know, say now sort of recruitment and onboarding manager, sort of, you know, you're in your early 20s and stuff. As I say, sort of, so how do you reflect on your career journey so far? And if you don't mind telling us a little bit more about that, sort of how you got into, say, a sort of a management position so soon.
Could you repeat that? I froze up for periods of it, so I got bits and bobs. But...
That's no problem. Yeah. So, like, could you tell us a little bit about your career journey so far and how it sort of led you into this management position?
So I've always been the type of person, I will stand and talk for days in school. If I could have done all my exams like as a verbal thing, I would have flown through school without a hassle, I don't think. Getting stuff down on paper has always been, I can do it, don't get me wrong, but it's not my strong point. Speaking, kind of being in front of people is where I feel most comfortable. And purely through chance, I ended up working or doing sort of school experience with a social enterprise who dealt with sort of a lot of businesses in the area, basically how to improve Portsmouth. A lady I met through that actually owned a recruitment agency. My school didn't offer work experience, so she offered me the work experience a couple of weeks over a half term. From then on out, I'm not going to say I was hooked straight away. It's not like I sat there and went, recruitment's for me. But the work experience itself was so valuable. I actually kind of wanted to go into the legal side of things. I did law at college, thoroughly enjoyed it. And there just wasn't the opportunities that were suitable sort of in my area. So looking back to what I'd done in the past, that recruitment work experience, it was good experience. So I thought, why not kind of look further into it? You see the silly money that you can earn from it. At 18, 19, I was earning more at times than I've earned more than my parents some years, put it that way, from recruitment. It's a really great environment to get into when you're driven. If you're the type of person that can just smash through work, don't get fazed by sort of any disappointments, it's such a fantastic area to go into. But it is such a ruthless area. There becomes a point where potentially you look for something a bit more fulfilling potentially. Money isn't everything in life, don't get me wrong. I, as much as the next person, love to go on holiday, buy X, Y, Z, but quality of life becomes a thing. You can do a stupid amount of hours and earn a stupid amount of money in recruitment, consulting, but coming on this side, it's a lot more personable. It's a lot more enjoyable from my point of view because I feel like I make more of an impact. When I hire someone, I see them day to day around the hotel. I know their name, I know their face. And like I said, that's why I look to go internal. Ended up recruiting for a cleaning company, being their primary recruiter. And then, like I say, this opportunity came up about roughly 3 months ago or so now. And touch wood, all seems to be going well. There's been some definite positive change sort of around the recruitment process. And like I say, I'm only 22 myself. I'm our youngest group manager by at least 10 years minimum. So it proves sort of thing, if you will work hard, you will just get on with it, you can kind of elevate into these positions a lot quicker than probably even I expected.
No, that's brilliant. And that's a really interesting breakdown you gave there of like the pros and cons of recruitment as a whole, and then sort of, as I say, the pros within your role now. And one thing Youth Pledge looks to do is to sort of provide people with a real sort of idea of what a typical day is like, in a role. And I know there's no such thing as a typical day, but in your sort of 3 months experience in this role, if you were to try and summarize a typical day of what you do, how would you?
I can come in whatever time of the morning I can come in. I can expect anything from one new person to deal with all their contracts, all of their new start forms, everything along that side, right the way through to 10, 15, depending on the time of year. Then it is a lot of meetings. Meetings aren't the most glorious things in the world, but in the position I'm in, being a group manager, I'm constantly speaking between our 3 hotels, between all the managers under me across the 3 hotels, really just kind of staying in constant communication. So I know what's going on from their end. I know what their needs are going to be 1 week, 1 month, 1 year down the line. And then also what I need from them, what I'm preparing for them to kind of get them to where they need to be. Like I say, that can take a whole day in itself at times, just kind of getting around everyone. Other times I can be sat there and go through all the legal side of the kind of contractual side. HR, I have a massive kind of impact with. Obviously, although recruitment is its own thing in its own right, you will always get dragged into the HR side of things, whether that's dealing with disciplinaries, grievances, kind of even just sort of wellness meetings. There's so many different facets to it, and I think that's where recruitment is fantastic, because it does lead into the HR side, which in itself is probably tenfold bigger.
No, that's brilliant, and it's really interesting how you touched on, as I say, how what you do links into the other departments, such as HR. When it comes to my final question, I've been asking all the employers the same final question, but I'm probably going to have to tweak it slightly for you, because I usually ask people, if they could go back and speak to their younger selves, what kind of a career advice they give. But I still think that in my mind, you're still, too young for that to apply. So what I'm going to flip on its head is I'm going to say, if you could speak to someone who was maybe, say, imagine they're 16 to 17 and they're maybe considering a career within the different parts of recruitment, and they think, what, maybe I've got some of the skills needed. What piece of advice would you give to them to maybe make them think if sort of a career in recruitment is for them or not, and what would allow them to succeed in that field?
Recruitment is very much, if you can keep your head up, if you can keep your motivation high and keep your workload high, you will always succeed. You could have 100 rejections, and that one positive, that one yes, can be a couple of grand straight away in your pocket on top of your base salary. It's holding out for those positives, not getting beaten down by sort of constant rejections at times. It's being able to kind of always look for a positive within it. And I think if you're that type of person that's driven, will just keep going, keep trying, willing to look at different methods of going about something. Sometimes you'll do something and it will work for a week. It could work for a week, it could work for a month, it could work for a year. All of a sudden, that thing can completely stop working for you. There's no reason why. It can be completely random with that. So it's then having the kind of oomph about you to go and find the next thing. What's going to work for you? What's the new thing that needs recruiting? What's the new method to kind of get you to the next step? And like, I'm not the smartest. I did bang average in school. But it's very much just work ethic. If you can keep on top of it, as long as you're organised, and really, if you can have the confidence to speak to anyone at 18, I would have to lie about my age when I'm speaking to CEOs of multi-billion-pound companies, just to get a little bit more respect, almost. Just if a lot of employers look at an 18-year-old in my position and was kind of like, well, you don't have the experience to be doing this. One of my biggest clients, who was spending upwards of 50 grand a year with me, he didn't have a clue how old I was for ages. I got invited up to a meeting with them, and he took one look at me and kind of went, oh, I didn't realise you were so young. And I was like, well, what difference does it make? And it's very much just, if he had known my age at that point, he openly said, well, I don't know whether I would have gone with you, but the confidence side of things, even just the ability to blag the confidence, if you can fake it till you make it, especially in recruitment, you can go as far as you possibly want.
No, brilliant. I think that's a lovely note to end this on. So thank you for spending time with this afternoon, Jack.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.